I cannot get that song out of my head.
Which one?
You Got a Friend in Me. I have been singing. I want to be done with that song now.
You just got to overload your brain with.
Well, now we're listening to a lot of Greatest Showman songs now. So
good.
But this was I was just chatting with you earlier. Like, this was a wide net of a sermon that you cast, because a lot of people can relate to this. I had so many people come up to me in the Grand Hall and just like, I wish my husband was here to see this, hear this message. I wish so-and-so was here to hear this message. Like, it is something that most people struggle with. Yeah. Is this idea of comparison. And we thought about it a little bit, like, before social media, you just compared yourself to your neighbor or the guys at work or your friend group. You know, it's like, oh, Tom got a new Corvette over there. You know, like, now you're comparing yourself to everyone. That's right. Everyone in the world. And then you have to decipher whether it's real or not. That's right. You know, and a lot of times it's not. And so it's this incredibly overwhelming feeling of never feeling like you're enough. Like, you never feel like, oh, I don't have this toy, so I'm not enough. I haven't hit this mark in my career, so I'm not enough. That's right. I don't look like this guy, so I'm not enough. I'm not working hard enough. And then all of a sudden you're in a place of like, I'm not enough. In every aspect, in every area of my life. And psychologically, that will mess with you. So I think, obviously, like, the Toy Story was just the vessel. That's right. to launch into this. But why Toy Story? Why this comparison? Why did you choose these things to talk about?
I think you hit it, man. We all feel the pressure of comparison and the pressure of performance at a time in our life, and when it builds off of each other. So when I don't feel like I'm enough, I look around to see what I subjectively would interpret as that would be enough for me. And the truth is, and we'll learn about it this Sunday, is like, that's not true either. That even when I gain the world, it's the ego kicks in, and that's not enough. I want the next world or that world. And we perpetually build upon like our sense of more. And like I tried to state in the sermon, there's nothing wrong with a comparison that is healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting more for your life. Like, do it, go. By all means, but don't let the vehicle by which you're trying to attain more be a vehicle that encapsulates your soul, right? That takes away from your transformation that God is still wanting to do within you. Because again, like, I don't care if you have $100 million in the bank or if you have $100 in the bank or zero. You are, at this very moment, enough. You are enough for the people who love and care about you most. Because if you're not enough for them with zero in the bank, you won't be enough for them with $1 million in the bank. And the point I was trying to make from Toy Story was Woody held a position amongst the toys where this was the way things were. I'm the head toy. I'm the most loved toy. I'm the most played with toy. I have a position on Andy's bed. And there's going to come a day, and depending on how we frame it and perspectivize it, like, dude, I get emotional thinking about this. Like, I love my son to death. You guys know this. Like, I post on Instagram, not to prove anything, but to show, like, this is how I operate as a dad. Asher's starting to work out with me, right? He's starting to get into working out because, like, I think it's partially because he's getting into girls or whatever. Yeah. He realizes, hey, I have an edge if I'm physically fit or whatever. But he can't lift as much as me. He just can't. It's physically impossible for that. But there's gonna come a time where he will overtake me. Like, I wait for that moment because it's gonna be very, maybe not emotional for him, for me. There's gonna come a point where you're stronger than me. You're better than me, and that's what I want for your life. And I think in that moment, Woody realizes, like, I'm not top toy anymore. Yeah. And he refuses to relinquish that position honorably, humbly, to go, hey, man, I've had my run. Now it's Buzz's time. But what does he do? He attacks Buzz. That's not real.
It's revenge.
It's not real.
Yeah,
That's
he
not
takes it
real.
not just as far as like being jealous, but he also like comes after Buzz
he
now.
kicks Buzz out. He tries to knock him between a little gap in the story,
Right.
but he ends up hitting him out the window. And I think that's us, man. That's the story of humanity. I mean, even if you take the myth of the garden, obviously I don't believe in a literal Adam or Eve, but I believe in the mythology of that. The serpent speaks to Eve and goes, "You're not going to die. You're going to become more.
Right.
Like you'll be like God." Like that's a comparison, right? Like that's simile is what we talk about in English, like something. You'll be like God. Oh, so who do I compare myself to? God. And what happens there is like absolutely phenomenal of a story, because the serpent says, in most English translations say, "You will be like God, knowing the difference between good and evil." That's a horrible translation. They already knew the difference, which is why they didn't eat from the tree in the first place. The proper translation, one of my good friends, Shaul, who's a Hebrew rabbi, says one of the ways we translate that is the serpent tells Eve, "You'll be like God, deciding for yourself the difference between good and evil." In other words, you become the measuring comparison of what we dictate as right or wrong. And that gets blurry, especially in the Western world, where highly individualized, successful, egoistic people seem to be highly successful and have these traits, you know. So with that said, the pressure to compare is always there. I think it's a daily thing. Like we see a car that we love. Like, man, I wish I had that car. We see a physique that you don't have. Like, you know, look at you, bro. Like, but you're very disciplined and humble in your approach to how you maintain your health and, you know, whatnot. And unless people count the cost, which was part of the sermon, you have to, like, dude, Rick just doesn't wake up with this mental health, with this physical health, with this physique. Like, you work at it, dude, and people need to know what it cost you. You know, it's not just genetics, right?
Yeah.
In the same way, delivering a good sermon. Like, I talk to young youth pastors all the time, and they're like, "Man, dude, you're just like a gifted communicator." Well, bro, I work at that. Like, I practice on my wife, which she's like, "I don't really like the way that sounds," or I study, I pray, I read, I write, I rewrite. And that's part of the thing, man. If you're going to compare yourself to someone, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but make sure you're counting the cost of what that comparison.
And that was actually one of the things that I wrote down. I remember when I first was introduced to David Goggins.
Yeah.
You know Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
And for people that don't know, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he currently is a motivational speaker, but he's also an ultra marathon runner.
Yep.
This dude is a crazy person.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, this guy runs hundreds of miles, and the pain and the suffering that he is able to endure is unlike anybody I've ever seen. So I first got into him and I read his book, you know, and his book was just like, oh my gosh, I want to be just like this guy.
Yeah. I
want to have this mindset that he has. And I remember talking to my good buddy Jesse about it, and he's like, "That's amazing." He's like, "But I wonder what this guy sacrificed to be great."
Yeah.
And then once you start uncovering more and more about Goggins, you realize, like, oh, he's probably not the best father. He's not the best husband. He's been remarried a couple of times, and he seems like he's difficult to work with and stuff like that. So it's like he is and that's not a knock on David Goggins, but he has sacrificed being an involved father and a good husband to be great at running and being a motivational speaker, which those are good things. He's inspiring a lot of people to be their best self and to push themselves past these barriers that they've placed on themselves, whether physically or mentally. But he also sacrificed things that are really, really important to me. And so that was where it was like, okay, I'm going to take the mindset tools from Goggins.
Yep.
But I'm going to put them up against the things that I also hold valuable. So you always have to, like, where do your goals line up with your values?
That's exactly
And
it.
if anything's in conflict or anything's going to sacrifice from that,
That's
then
exactly
let that go or minimize it.
That's
because
right.
I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I see people on Instagram. I see guys that have way better physiques than me.
Yeah.
I see guys that have way more money than I do, that drive nicer cars, have nicer houses, and all these different things. And I'm just like, I always start with, I'm happy that you have those things.
Yep.
I'm proud of you for working that hard. Like, coming at it from a mindset of like jealousy.
That's it. Wrong.
Coming at it from, I hate the term.
Envy.
I hate the term, oh, it must be nice.
Yeah.
I hate the term, I wish.
Yeah.
Like, those are terms that I try to knock
Never say.
out of my vocabulary.
Never say 'em.
But like, having the mindset of like, if you could truly be happy for your neighbor when they have a win. If you're happy for your friends when they like their business takes off. I've got a couple of buddies of mine, their businesses are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And it'd be super simple for me to be like, oh, must be nice.
Yep.
Wish that would happen to me. No. Like, I stop that from the minute that thought comes into my head and say, no. No.
That's right.
That's not who we want to be. We want to be somebody that supports their friends and is happy.
Exactly it.
And that makes me happier. Like, starting from a place of not envy, but encouragement always is good. Always is good. And then it pushes you to be like, well, I guess I could try to do that too. Like, I guess I can push myself to be push myself a little harder. Like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too, you know?
And that's for me, that's where the comparison pressure is healthy. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like, dude, you can push beyond the limits you've placed upon yourself now. And the results are going to be awesome for you, for your life, etc. But there's also that comparison piece where I use the illustration. I said the problem isn't wanting more from life or being a better person. The problem is like leg day, right? Putting yourself in a position that you're not built for.
Right.
Or that you're not prepared for. Like, honestly, man, if I'm being honest, and if most people like look themselves in the mirror, and I know people, obviously I'm not going to name, but if I gave them $1 million, it'd be the worst investment because they'd blow it.
Right.
Because they're not built for it. They're not prepared for that kind of responsibility. And they would just blow it on really superfluous stuff.
Yeah.
And probably let those things rot as well and just become whatever. And for me, as someone who looks at the spiritual, for me, like the spiritual journey, I agree with this guy named Meister Eckhart from Germany. Like, Meister Eckhart said, the constant spiritual journey is not that of addition, but that of subtraction. And I say this all the time. The church will die when it stops giving its life away. Like, that's when the church will die, is when it stops giving its life away. And people die through the comparison game, when they feel like they can't reach. But what you said was absolutely brilliant, dude, is I compare and contrast that which I deem valuable, success, a house to live in. But the contrast is what does that butt up against that I value in my life?
Right.
Because if it takes me away from my kids, screw it.
Right.
It ain't that valuable to me.
Right.
If it takes me away from putting me in positions that may compromise my fidelity to my wife, I'm not in it. I don't care what kind of business meeting this is.
Right.
I'm not going to put myself in a position to compromise those things I value most. So is that at the detriment of my success or whatever? Maybe so, but I honestly don't give a crap.
Yeah.
Because I highly esteem these things.
But that's the Western mind talking, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
success is measured by how much money you have, or your house that you have, or the cars you drive. Like, success is completely individualized. You know, success to somebody could be, I'm a super involved dad.
That's right.
I make $40,000 a year, but you know what? I get to pick my kids up from school every day. I get to see them every weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not away all the time. I'm not working late all the time. And I'm a really good husband, and we make just enough to put a roof over our heads.
Yeah.
Like, that's success for that person.
Yeah.
Like, there's this great author, his name's Ramit Sethi, and he has this book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And it's a catchy title to get people to, like, it's almost like clickbait for a book.
Yeah.
But what he talks about is like creating your rich life. What does your rich life look like? Not what Jeff Bezos' rich life looks like or Bill Gates' rich life. Like, what does your rich life look like? And for him, it's like, my rich life is being able to travel whenever I want. I make $100,000 a year, but I get to travel whenever I want. I keep my expenses low, and I get to experience life.
Yeah.
He's not rich in comparison to Jeff Bezos. He has very little money compared to Jeff Bezos, but he has created his rich life.
That's right.
And so we can take that to all spectrums, not just financially, but like, what does your ideal life look like?
That's it.
And what are the values that you hold and the things that you want to be? Yep. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be involved with my kids' life. I want to maintain my health long through into my old age, so that way I can play with my kids and my grandkids and hopefully my great grandkids.
That's
you know,
right.
Those are the things that I value.
Yeah.
And so it's balancing the values against your goals and making sure you're like, sometimes you waver off track a little bit and you're like,
Yep.
But having a strong sense of what my values are has really helped keep me on track.
That's it,
for
man.
what I'm trying to accomplish. And it helps with the comparison game.
Dude.
It really does.
I love that, man, because I brought up it was like a throwaway sort of illustration with Jesus. Like, if Jesus wanted to be completely successful, completely popular, completely proving the point of who he was, he'd healed everybody.
Yeah.
Just heal everybody. Yeah, what you got? What you got? Boom. What you got? What you got? What you got? Like, you want the measure for success to be 100%. He had the power, the capacity, and I tried to frame that again with that's when you know your purpose. What purpose am I here to do? And for me, man, my purpose is locked up in being a good dad, a good father, a good pastor, a good friend, good brother. Like, that is the quintessential element for me for success. Because I know any sort of monetary gain will come to a certain extent. You know, I'm not looking to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire dude. Like, that doesn't interest me as a passion.
Right.
If it happens, great. Like, if something I write or say puts me on a platform that I could share this idea that's revolutionary to people, great. Like, I'll roll with it. But the point is Jesus himself says, no, I'm not here for creating a comparison of me and the other prophets. I'm not here to do a public display of performance to prove something. He goes, I have a purpose that I have to stay focused on. And that purpose is personal transformation, not public demonstrations of my power. And I think Western mindset is what is social media? The public demonstration of this pseudo successful life that I have that people will like and hopefully generate income for me. And that's why I asked the question, what was this guy doing, this woman doing 5 minutes before this, 5 minutes after?
Right.
And I think the correct response, like for me, like I love going to the beach, dude. Like I love posting. And it's not being braggadocious. I'm just like sharing my life with people. And that's, you know, I made a joke about the Instagram. I can make this cool pot of gumbo and everybody like it, but it's like it didn't happen unless I post it.
Right.
And I feel that pressure too, man. But it's not like I don't feel it doesn't happen. I'm just inviting people to share in this moment that's very important and special to me. Like, hey, wish you were here. Mm-hmm. And even at the beach, I had a friend respond to me, but not out of jealousy. Like a lot of the text I get are, must be nice, if only.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, do you know what it freaking cost me? Like an extra weekend with my kids. But that's being made up because I know my purpose. I know my purpose. And that purpose is transformation of people's lives. And the work we're doing here is the only reason I'm here, bro. It has nothing to do with popularity or being on the internet or whatever, trying to become some celebrity pastor. No, it's not it. Dude, we are changing lives. And it came at a cost that I counted. But I also live the life I've always wanted. And so I get a lot of like, I don't want to call it hate text, like, oh, it must be nice or whatever. I get those. But I had a friend the other day, her name's Kelly. She wrote back, she went, I'm so proud of you. She didn't say, oh, you're living your best life.
Yeah.
She goes, it is amazing for you. I'm getting chilled. She said, it's amazing for you to be living out the purpose I always knew God had for you. and it just so happens to be in the most beautiful place on the earth, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's the correct response.
Right.
Because she knows me. She knows the cost of what I sacrifice to be here and what I continually sacrifice to be here. And for me, the cost is worth it because I'm in my purpose, not in a performance. Like, I'm in my calling, not a comparison.
Yeah.
And when you do that, bro, like, everything just falls in line, man. So, yeah.
It's amazing.
Sorry about that. I went
Super well said, though. That's brilliant. So this coming up week, we got The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about.
Me
One
too.
of my all-time favorite musicals. We couldn't pick just one song, so we're going to be doing a medley. And I'm really excited about it, man. You got anything else for one more thing?
No, man. That's it. Just I'm excited for this Sunday, man. This is going to be a really, really powerful. So bring everyone you know. If you come to any one of these, this is the one you want to come to this weekend.
I second that, especially on the music side.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
All right. Awesome,
man. Thanks.